Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Entrepreneurship Sucks podcast. Today we have Mr. Fred Smith. Fred, how you doing today?
Unbelievable, brother. How you doing today?
Phenomenal. Thanks for asking. So, Fred, before we, get into who you are, where you're from, your story, your background, where you're headed, all that fun stuff. Obviously, the name of the show is Entrepreneurship Sucks podcast, and basically the premise is that we're crazy entrepreneurs who refuse to settle for like a regular status quo life. And sometimes there's a lot of suck involved in that. And so we thought it would be appropriate to name the show after that concept. And sometimes really the only appropriate response is to, share those stories and laugh about how we champion the suck. And so with that being said, I'm curious to kick things off with a question. What does entrepreneurship sucks mean to you?
Well, entrepreneur sucks to me is being that stable rock when all the water's just going all around you. Like you just have to be stable because it gets crazy really fast. And I think sometimes as entrepreneurs, we tend to want to do too much too fast. So we kind of create our own demise. That makes sense. Versus just relaxing and letting it happen and going with the flow. You do have to have, there's a flow involved with that. But I know I'm a type A personality, high D, very dominant. So, the skill of getting out of my own way is something I had to learn. But they don't teach you that in school.
That's true, they do not. I mean, and I went to school for entrepreneurship. I have a whole degree in it. And lo and behold, you can actually get a degree in entrepreneurship. No, you're right, they don't teach you that stuff in there. So, kind of curious, why don't you give us, for those of you who don't know you, I know you, I'm pretty well acquainted with you, but like, what's your background? Where are you from? How'd you get to where you are now?
Yeah, appreciate that, man. I'm actually from the hood. I'm actually just outside of Philly, a place called Chester, PA. I wasn't born with a golden spoon in my mouth. Matter of fact, I was just trying to stay alive until I was 17. And then from there, I did door-to-door sales. My mom gave me a challenge. She was like, well, if you don't like it, you can leave. And I was like, leave all of this? So I left. So I went to do door-to-door sales. I went to school for a little bit at a place called Loyola College. Studied finance there. It sucked because I didn't feel like spending $50,000 a year just to not learn anything. So I kind of dropped out of school. And then I did door-to-door sales. And then I was really crazy in that world for about 4 years. After that, I joined the Marine Corps. The Marine Corps actually calmed me down because I was working with felons, convicts, pimps, pushers, prostitutes, you name it. Everybody was on the road selling books and magazines trying to escape the regular grind. So that's what I did for a long time. Actually controlled the actual door-to-door sales team. It was about 60 of us. And so the Marine Corps taught me structure. Then after that, I was in the Marine Corps. Nearly got killed several times out there in the combat zone. Had a secret clearance. That's how I got to the car game. Because nobody wanted to hire me because I was too abnormal. And then from there, I scaled up several companies from zero to a few hundred million in the car business, starting from scratch, no college degree, just hustling. And got out of doing that. And I was actually online back in 2014. I was working with Johnson Maxwell's team. Was one of his founding partners for JMT DNA. Then I got a hold of, as you know, Traffic and Funnels back then with Taylor. I was working with him for a good minute. And lo and behold, that in itself was a crazy experience. But I've been behind the scenes working with a lot of celebrity entrepreneurs in their businesses. So you know them if I was to drop the names, but it's not about dropping names, it's about showing how much entrepreneur does suck. So here we are.
Oh. Yeah, man, you've been through it, sounds like.
That's like the 30,000 foot overview, man. That's like, wow. I love it, man. You got yourself a hell of a journey already. And it sounds like you got a lot of fire in you to, this is like you're just getting started, bro. So I want to unpack some of that. There was a lot of good stuff in there, man. So let's start. Like I got the bullet points for me are from the hood to door sales. That was your first, like, same thing, man. For me, 19 years old, my mom was like, well, you're gonna have to start paying rent if you want to stay here. I'm like, what do you mean want to stay here? Like, are you out of your mind?
Stay right here. Settle.
Like, what are you talking about? See ya. Yeah. So tell me about that, man. Tell me about the transition from, the first 17 years of your life. For me, my first savior was hip hop music. It motivated me to, like, do something more than what I was living around, right?
Yep.
And then
Yep.
and then from there it was personal development. Thankfully, my father was in a network marketing business, and he did fairly well. And so he put me on to like Jim Rohn and all the OGs when I was in high school, and that definitely saved me as well. So tell me about that, man. That aligns with me like pretty right on. So
No, I appreciate that, man. I'm just now hearing about Jim Rohn after all of these years, and that's the craziest thing about it. Yeah, so like my thing was like my mom was in the church for like 30 years as a church secretary. So my dad was a factory worker. So to get this kind of information combined with being in the hood, it's just like good luck with that. So I was just a word nerd anyway, because I started reading junk mail and I had no idea how the effect of the junk mail really was. Yeah, it was straight up, man. I was reading mail. Yeah,
you and Russell could sit down in a room somewhere and just go through all your old junk mail and geek out, dude. That's hilarious.
Yeah, bro. I mean, that's the craziest thing about it. And I wound up actually co-authoring a book with Dan S. Kennedy. I don't talk about that much. The Ultimate Success Secret. Yeah. But what happened?
What's it called?
Yeah, I'll drop you a copy of it, man. But yeah, it's cool. Crazy. Like I didn't know any of these names, bro. That's my point. Like I'm just now learning names. That's how crazy this whole story is. And the thing about it was, I just knew for a fact for me, I'm like. I used to do a lot of walking because I didn't just want to stay around the hood. The chances are you get shot or whatever. So it's just like I would walk outside of where I live, and I'm seeing these multi-million-dollar homes. I'm just like, what are they doing differently? I'm like, I know I'm smart. Like I know I can get that. So I knew that I had to find more opportunities. So that was my thing. Was really just trying to network and getting out there and talking to people, even though I didn't want to talk to nobody because we're training not talking to nobody. So it's a form of learned helplessness. So I had to overcome that kind of stuff. Not to mention that in the hood, there's a duality. It's just like we weren't doing nothing, but we weren't doing something either. It's like, everybody used to ask, hey, what you doing? Nothing. And kind of nothing's kind of good. It's just like the more I was doing something, the more I realized how much I didn't have. So it's kind of like this. It's like this flywheel that just kept going. So I was like, damn, I need
and then there's the whole, there's the hater mentality. If you're doing something, you better be ready to be up against all the roasting and like, what do you think you're going to do something? Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny you say that too, bro, because like I wasn't that good guy at roasting people. Like I sucked at it. I got so good at it, people wanted to try to fight me. Like that's how it was just crazy. I was coming back so fast because I had to learn it. We call it burning in the hood. I mean, I used to be like one of the best burners on the hood.
Yeah, we called it snapping. We called it snapping.
Like, he came out of nowhere. Like, damn. I'm like, I'm tired of y'all talking this trash. Like, I want to do something with my life. So that's what I did. I wound up just, moving out and, it wasn't easy because there was no model. So I had to make models up. I had to invent models. I had to just think through a lot of stuff. And it's still like that to this day because that's the other part that sucks about entrepreneurship is that it really is a desert out here. Like people don't understand, like you got to be in the right rooms with the right people who want to talk about the right things. And it needs to be in proper context for you at that time in order for you to get the result. Because there's more bad information out here than good, man. Because I'm not dumb. I actually graduated from high-level military schools. And it's just like, I'm used to, I know what to see. I know what to look for, but out in this entrepreneurial game, it ain't like that, bro. So I just like, you know what, screw it. I gotta create it.
Yep. You gotta know what not to listen to just as much as you know what to listen to. And then, I mean, in the regular world, they tell you knowledge is power, but we all can tell, right? Like it's not power. It's the assimilation of that knowledge. It's the
100%.
It's, it's knowing what to do with it and seeing, like you said, being in those right rooms to like, I mean, we know like coaching, right? Like anybody who's a 9-to-5er, they'll tell you coaching's a scam. But anybody who's an entrepreneur and who's successful and has paid good coaches will tell you it is the fast track. It is the only thing that's going to take you to the next level, bro.
Yeah, man. I just flat out broke my daughter's brain last night. She's like, I don't understand how people are paying $30,000 for blah 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 blah. Because she's watched me create offers. Like, because the other thing I didn't talk about was like I was working with an ad tech company from scratch. So that's a crazy story in itself. But I created like a 17K offer, a 30K offer. My wife was the first one to close a 30K offer, and Adam's going like, did she just close? Like, yeah, bro, this is how we get down. Because when you understand what people need, what they want, and they're willing to invest, it's just like you just get after it, straight up.
I know.
I love that.
I know.
So your kids are seeing this unfold too, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, her brain straight broke yesterday. She's like, huh?
Just same here. My son is 15, and only a few months ago we were charging like 5 to 10K for our offer. We just upped it to 25K is now our lowest offer, and we're doing better than we were at the 5 to 10K. And my son is like, he'll come home from school and I'll be on the computer right here. The door's right behind, he'll walk in and be like, how much today?
That's dope.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it's cool to shadow those paradigms. So like you said you went from the hood to door-to-door sales.
Mm-hmm.
What were you selling?
I was that kid coming by selling books and magazines. So, the thing about it was I was homeless for a little bit at that point in time. I could barely make my rent. So I didn't even realize what I was getting myself into. And the thing about it was, so the guy had interviewed me in Center City, Philly. And then that same day, I'm driving down to like Maryland. So I didn't even know how to do door-to-door sales, what was going on. It was like 3 hots in a cot, just the way that the door-to-door sales game is. So yeah, so I wound up doing that for about like almost 4 years, like 3.5, 4 years.
Wow.
It's insane, bro. Yeah.
From like how old to how old? Like right up until the time I went in the military?
Yeah, so that was around, I joined the Marines when I was like 22, so I think that was around when I was like 19, because for me to even get into the Marine Corps was still kind of like old, because the Marines will just put high mileage on you real quick, so most of those guys coming in 17, 18 years old, they can run it. I had to get in shape. I had to drop like almost 60 pounds just to get in.
So what was the best and worst part, like from the, you spent a lot of time in door-to-door sales, and I know like my first sales job was an accident too, right? But it changed something in me. It created a shift in my future, right? And I always look back to like what I learned and what it did for me, right? So like what was like the best and worst thing about it? Were you making good money? Were you making shit money?
Oh, I was making good money, bro. Because the craziest thing about it was I had like this, I had my metal briefcase. I was driving around a Lexus ES300, Mercedes 300 SDL. It's kind of crazy stuff, and I'm like a kid. This is around the time when it's like 94 when Doggy Style was just dropping. So I'm in Cali, just like, boom, like it was like, what's happening, But the thing about it, though, is that you got to be careful with that lifestyle, too, because when you're on the road, you really are like in the same hotels and motels with like pimps. And it just like, we had like all of these agreements and stuff like that. Like, hey, we're going to be doing this. Y'all do what y'all do. We don't care. So it was crazy as far as how that went down. But the thing about it, though, is that
you guys kind of had your own little magazine set too, though. You said there was like 60 of you guys. You had your own set.
But it was 2 crews, so I can't take credit for like running for like owning the crew, but I did help run the crew. And there's a difference. So because it freed up the owners, because one of the guys, his name was he's the late great James Ellison. Like he was my first mentor for real, and I have his principles right here. I'll probably start training on. But he gave me 103 precepts that actually really worked on my mindset. It was the first time I actually had a chance to work on my mindset. I used to do a lot of journaling when I was on the road. I'm just now getting back into that flow because I realized it's just like taking a bath. Like you just can't stop that stuff. Like you got to continually work on it because I'm always evolving as well. So and Josh, I know I wasn't trying to freak you out the other day, but I'm like, yeah, my wife died almost several times, so I just dropped everything. I took my whole brain and just put it into a whole different market. Josh is like, whoa, bro, what's going on?
Emotional roller coaster in one text. I can only imagine how good of a salesman you are. You took me all over the place with that message, man. You're so. Yeah, I definitely want to get into that a little bit if we can in a minute.
Yeah, cool, bro.
So from door to door, and then you joined the military. You said that gave you, the Marine Corps gave you structure. Thank you for your service.
Yeah.
My brother-in-law was in the Marine Corps.
I got kicked out of the Marine Corps. I almost got kicked out of the Marine Corps. That's how hardcore I was just coming out, bro. I didn't.
Man.
I did not care. Literally, we were on a rifle range. I just got my rifle. I got into a fist fight with my drill instructor, and then they wound up shipping me back. They're like, "This fool's crazy. You got a rifle too?" So then I'm actually with the senior drill instructor. He's throwing blows by me, like, "Hey, so I heard you want to fight one of my drill instructors?" I'm like, "Bro, swing, hit me, I pray, please."
Like, the craziest thing, right? Is in the military. Most of the stories I know of, like people that either my family or friends, like. Everybody who's almost gotten kicked out, it's always because you're fighting your brothers. It's never civilians, outsiders. It's always you guys against each other, on base. It's crazy.
Yeah. I had 8 guys that I went after. I got because I told them, I said, I'm trying to get my specialty right now because it was hard for me to get it. That's why I learned all of this stuff, this high level crazy stuff. but I got like 6 of them back because the other 2 had wound up going somewhere else. I mean, and I wound up being like number 1 in the battalion for Marine combat training. That's just how crazy it was, man. I was hell bent, man. I was like, I gotta get it.
So you learned structure, and you brought yourself up the ranks, right? You said you know what? So tell me a little bit about that. Like how high did you get up? Like you said something about special clearance and stuff. So like, give us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So what happened? So my designation in the Marine Corps was high level journalism. It's not journalism. So you learn all of you got to put the quotes in there. Journalism. Yeah, you don't learn journalism from the National Cryptologic Institute. You can Google that. It's a leadership school for the NSA. So it's just like. So I learned all these skills, but they helped me in the respect that it took my junk mail door-to-door skills, because I had no idea even that it was called, like, I'm telling you, dude, this is the crazy story. Like, I didn't even know why I was reading the junk mail. I just became obsessed with it, right? And then I was able to take that knowledge along with the training that I was getting from the military, and I wound up getting an award from, like, he is the chief of naval intelligence, and it's like the guy who reports to him is like secretary. Well, it's this guy, the secretary of Navy, then the president of the United States. I got an award one day, and my chief was just like, "You got this award." I'm like, "That's cool." He's like, "I didn't give it to you." I'm like, "I don't know." He's like, "Well, who do you know?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" Like, he's just like, "We got to go back and forth." So because I wound up overhauling the entire U.S. Navy's stock story department, because I wound up working there as well as Fleet Anti-Terrorism and Security Team. So it's Fast Company and Fleet Hometown News Center. So they were. So I was under joint service. And the craziest thing about it was I'm always out because I'm hustling, I'm grinding, I'm flowing. That's what entrepreneurs do. But I took those skills and I was able to rewrite the entire Navy's like stock story department, and also advertorial writing. So advertorial writing was like Gary Halbert. I'm just starting to learn like Gary Halbert, and when somebody show me this stuff, I'm just like, dude, he went to my school. Like y'all talking about how phenomenal. I'm like, everybody learn how to train like this. Like this is repeatable. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it was all of these life lessons that I took combined with the military stuff, and that's what enabled me to really catapult and actually hit a different level in the military. But I volunteered for the expeditionary unit because I didn't want to be behind garrison. It's called garrison. In other words, like, you know, you out there just a writer, blah blah blah. I'm like, I didn't come into the Marine Corps for that. I came into the Marine Corps to get action. I got plenty of action. So be careful what you wish for.
Yeah. So it sounds to me like you said you didn't know why you were reading all this junk mail, right, when you were younger, but it's like God put that in front of you to prepare you for rewriting the whole advertorial thing that you were just referring to, right? Because it's like you were conditioning yourself and training yourself on something that you didn't even know what you were going to use it for, and you weren't doing it for an intended purpose. You just liked it.
Yeah, I love it. I still love doing it. That's what I do right now. Like I can just take it and just. I sometimes I will write my own landing pages just for fun. I mean, I do a lot of the copywriting work, high level copywriting work. Me and a guy named Ray, he was my first setter at TF. We have this whole practice and process that we're working through right now called the PDOX method. So it's a cult classic online. So like a lot of the top level people have actually went through the training or they know what it is. But for the most part, my whole goal, I think now in life, is to train and develop other people on how this process works and stuff. Because I've just done so much with it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, outside of the podcast, man, I'd love to hear more about it. But
100%, brother.
Cool. So like, tell me about, all right, when you left the military, you did your 4 years, and then, you know, what did that look like for you? Like, how did you went so quick, man. You're like Marine Corps, and then I you know, just like kind of like as a side note, I scaled a couple businesses from like 0 to 100 million, and then you just stepped right over that. You're like, that's just like cliff notes, but like moving on, like, wait, what? I'm like taking notes over him, like, we got to talk about everything that he just said in the past 30 seconds. Go ahead, man. So what's next?
This is a pretty compressed 18 minutes, bro.
Yeah. I know, we've only been in for 18 minutes. That's all right, though. We got plenty more to talk about, I can imagine, so.
Yeah, so what happened was like, the craziest thing about the military is that like they won't ramp you down. So the thing about it was I was taking all of these tests, And then the stuff that came out. So I had already had a job for like Associated Press, CNN, all of these guys, because I actually fed them the news. So so when people talk about like how the outlets work, I know how the outlets work. I used to be one of the distributors to the distributors. So I know how that process works really, really well. The problem was that when I almost got killed, I'm like, I need to unsubscribe from all of this crap. Like, I'm out. I don't want to talk about none of this stuff. I'm over it. And for real, I just started talking about it probably within like the last 6 months. It hasn't been that recently. So, and I got officially debriefed on a lot of stuff that I know back in November of 2020. So the challenge with a guy like me is that we typically stay in those high level rooms. You know, like some of my friends are still working for Department of Defense, or working in intelligence, and I didn't want to work at like NASA. That's like the only high thing that I could go after, right? So when I got out of the military, they said I did an equivalency test, and what I did was equivalent to sales and marketing. I'm just like, sales and marketing. I'm like, this ain't even close. Like, no. So I took a test for a guild, because at that point in time, public affairs people used to take a guild test, and I aced it. People didn't know who I was. So I said, I'm going to do all that crap. Forget it. I just want to just turn into a pumpkin, Cinderella, just go back to being a regular human. Good luck with that when it doesn't happen. So the people who were crazy enough to hire me were the car business, because they didn't care. It's just like, look, do you have a pulse? Yeah. Can you pass a drug test? Yeah. Okay, you're hired. Here are the keys. So I wound up getting into the sales lane like that. And then I worked at this place called Cush Honda San Diego. I sold like 21 cars in less than like 14 days. I didn't get paid off of it. Then I wound up working at another place called Pearson Ford in San Diego. And then ultimately, I wound up selling like 100 cars a month, running ads with me and my friend. We started doing that kind of stuff. And then it was just, and I was one of the first guys to do lead generation. Ford Direct at that point in time was just becoming a thing. So this is when we had curled up fax paper to get leads. People didn't know what to do with them. They would give them to like the fleet department for vehicle sales versus having regular retail people. I literally figured out all of that stuff. I was just like, look, guys, when I see a lead, this is how it goes. Boom, boom, boom. So I wound up revolutionizing that. And then around 2003 is when the CSI, Customer Satisfaction Indexes, started becoming a real thing in the car business. So it was Ford Direct and BMW at that point in time. So we were competing against BMW. And even something as small as Ford was like, hey, it'll be 8 hours when you respond back to a lead. I'm like, 8 hours? I'm like, I got 1 minute. So I was one of the first guys to actually tie Ford Direct to like my BlackBerry, because that's what I had at that point in time. And my sales team was crushed it. Like we were straight crushing it, bro. Like it was a store that was sucking. They went from 600 cars to 300 cars to 180. I brought them back up to almost 400 cars a month, and we were responsible for almost 40% of the total vehicle sales at that time. So then from there, I wind up going from that level to in the military. They always tell us to keep our resume online. So I wound up getting with a finance company, but I went back down to San Diego for a little bit to do special finance, secondary finance, and then from there I went back up to Crenshaw Motors Ford. So I was at South Central LA selling cars, and then from there I went to a finance company, and then that's when it got totally crazy, because I was able to get behind the scenes with finance, but then scale up these companies because they were doing startups. So you know how you buy a car, they got service contracts, the Gap, all of the stuff. So I was the guy who was actually bringing that back in-house for the manufacturer, because the manufacturer was like, yo, there's some money behind this. I'm like, right? So we got that money. That's what I wound up doing. So I wound up starting those kinds of companies in the finance and insurance world, up to and including like Kia and Hyundai. So yeah.
Awesome.
That's a really interesting pivot out of the military.
Yeah, definitely.
It's weird, bro. If you played it, I'm good. I don't know. It's just like
so. I want to hear a couple crazy stories from like like your higher level in the military, right? Like and from, I mean, there's got to be at least one story from selling cars on Crenshaw, man.
Yeah. I mean, what I give you one real quick was actually watching Johnny Cochran's funeral go down the street. I used to have like he was the guy who was what O.J. Simpson trial and stuff like that. So his funeral came down the street. I couldn't have a gun, so I used to have like a baseball bat and a golf club when I was right there coming from the hood. We used to have, and we always had to move the cars, or you'd have bumps and bruises on the car from people fighting. So we'd have discounts the cars. But the craziest thing about it was we had what they call a service absorption rate, which means like the service department apartment had a huge, like there were 100% capacity full, just like a hotel. We used to have we used to service the LAPD cars, so we were kind of protected. So you see all the LAPD cars right there. It's the craziest thing, bro. And we actually for financing, we were one of the first. We were one of the very first people in the United States to actually do in-house on a massive scale, like they call it toe-to-note, like to be able to do financing. One of the major companies now, actually, I was one of the ones who helped launch them in Crenshaw Motorsport.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Wow, dude.
So go ahead, Josh.
Can I ask about the near-death experience in the military?
Yeah, bro. Yeah, we can talk about it. We're good.
I want to hear about that.
Yeah, when was that? At what stage?
So the crazy thing about that was that I was at a mastermind out in Laguna Niguel, and my wife had fainted. But prior to that, she had fainted one other time. I think it was like around 2011. Like literally, she went to give me a hug. And it was kind of like the Matrix. You ever watch the Matrix where the guy pulls the thing out of her head and she just kind of drops like that? So she gave me a hug and then she just dropped. I was like, this is not normal. What's going on? But even prior to that, one of my buddies, we were over his house and she fainted. So this is after we just got married. I was like, well, this is not normal. Like, what's going on? It just got progressively worse and worse and worse. So then around when she had fainted at the mastermind, within the next month, she dropped like 40 pounds. So it was just like, what's going on here? Like straight up. And I'm traveling at this point in time. I think I'm still with Hyundai at that point in time. And we were just launching the Genesis and stuff like that. So she had fainted. And I'm just like, what's going on? So it was a red flag. And she speaks 3 languages. So nobody could figure out what was going on. And then her neck got like, I'm a big dude, and her neck was bigger than mine. She's sitting on dubs with her neck, bro. She's like past 20 inches. And everybody's like, oh, everything's perfect. Everything's fine. I'm like, she's fainting. She's got a big neck. I'm a big dude. This is not normal. So I kept finding out that she could not understand what the doctors were saying because he used a lot of technical terms. So what happened after that was it just got worse and worse and worse to the point where we had to put her on a heart rate monitor. And then the doctors had hit me up one day. They're like, call 911. I'm like, what do you mean call 911? And I called my wife. I'm just like, are you okay? She's like, yeah, I'm fine, and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, I just got a call from the doctor. And as soon as I said that, all of a sudden her heart started like hitting really hard, and it was beating like 195 beats per minute. Now, prior to that, I was working with Traffic and Funnels, and I had talked to Anthony Armini at that point in time because it had happened before when we were at the DMV. And literally, she just stopped. I'm like, "Are you okay?" She's like, she couldn't move, and it just got worse and worse and worse. Come to find out, just to make a long story short, she had a hole in her heart. She had SVT, supraventricular tachycardia. But what makes it unusual is that hers went with the blood flow, not against the blood flow, because that's the first thing that the heart doctors always are trained to do. They only had a few hundred of these procedures over the years. So it's a very rare condition that she had, but it also went with the blood flow. And nobody can figure this out. Plus, she had her thyroid going out at the exact same time. And I looked at the human body just like a car, because I'm in the car game. I was like, okay, well, is this pre-existing condition hitting me? This pre-existing condition? Because I had to do all that stuff. So I took my research skills, and I was able to really literally save her life with those kind of techniques and strategies, because people just kept misdiagnosing her. They said it was this, it was that, it was this disease, it was that disease. So just to make a long story short, because I can't get into the medical part of this, but I asked my doctor, I was just like, hey, is this curative? He was like, yeah. So, okay. 6 months later, I'm like, well, you told me it was curative, bro. Like, what are we talking about? So I got that part like done. And the heart part, which I couldn't obviously handle that. So she went through a procedure on December 27th of 2019. And this was just before the pandemic hit. And I was working with Key at that point in time. So it just got super nuts after that. But so I spent the last actually longer than that, almost 8 years, just being a caregiver to her. But it brought back my humanity, because again, remember I told you before, coming out of the Marine Corps, they don't like teach you how to get back into your emotion. Mm-hmm. Your brother was back in my feels for real. I was in my feels for real. So because she's my everything, and she's like, all I want to ever give you was a family, blah blah blah. Like she's like, and I'm pretty good with answering questions. But when we were in that hospital, and she was like, "Daddy, am I going to die?" I legit can answer that question. So it was one of those things where I was like, I need to get really focused in on how I need to think to save her life, because nobody else can figure this out. I'm gonna take responsibility for this, and that's what I did. So,
Fred,
this time last year,
incredible, dude. I've not. I don't know if Joshua told you when you guys were at Taylor's event, but that is almost the exact same thing that happened with me and my grandmother in 2018. I
Wow.
had, and the reason, okay, so I had an e-commerce business. We were doing upwards of 100K a month, all through Instagram marketing. Did it for about 3 years. My wife and I retired her from, they moved her position at Verizon Wireless of 10 years down to South Carolina. I was like, forget it, just take the severance package, and we continue to scale the business, right? My
Mm.
grandmother in like right after Thanksgiving of 2017, she just started having this rapid onsetting dementia, and they couldn't figure out what was going on with her. And then she ended up in the hospital of February of 2018. Now, this the weekend that she went into the hospital, something told me I had plans. You're from LA. I'm sure you know who Nipsey Hussle is, right? Or you
Of
spent a
course.
lot of time in LA. Okay, so I've been a very big Nipsey Hussle fan since like 2014. I owe a lot of the growth and scaling of my business at that time to his marathon principles that he talked about in his music, man. And I created. He shouted me out on his Instagram right before my grandmother went into the hospital. I was actually in talks with Idris Sandu, the guy that helped him develop the smart tech for the Marathon clothing store. I was gonna fly out there. We were gonna do we had gotten invited to the Grammys, not by them, invited to the Grammys to be like one of those celebrity, swag booths for our brand.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I was going to have a meeting with, hopefully with Nipsey and his team. We were still trying to work out the details. And then my grandmother went into the hospital, and the weekend of the Grammys, right? And, so for some reason, something in my heart told me to like wait and not book the flight until the last minute. And then I just canceled everything, stepped away from I stayed in the hospital with my grandmother for close to 90 days. I like literally slept in the chair next to her, would not leave and for me, just like you said, you come from like the car industry and you're like, this is how I diagnose things. For me, I was very, very heavy because I was in the top 1% of all Shopify stores in the world for traffic.
Wow.
So I was heavily focused for the 6 months leading up to her going into the hospital on conversion rate optimization to increase, obviously, the number of people who checked out and, converted, right? So I'm like hyper focused on conversion rate optimization. And then I like learn that skill, but then I'm like, step into the hospital with my grandmother and I'm like, no one can figure out what's wrong with her. They keep sending her home and she keeps getting worse. And so I'm literally like, I'm doing conversion rate optimization basically on her, like, all her medical records and like diagnosing.
Yeah. It's a real thing, bro. It's a straight up real thing.
Dude,
100%.
And it's so crazy because this whole 90 days, like I try to be as respectful as I can and like take into consideration, like, you guys are the experts, but like I got to the point where I was like, doctors were like trying to shut the elevator door when they saw me coming because they just didn't want to be bothered by me anymore, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, we've done everything under the sun. I'm like, nothing is, I for something in my heart and my soul, it keeps telling me the one thing that you guys haven't done, and because she's like, got the dementia and she's like kind of aggressive, like when they try to like give her needles or anything. I said the only thing you haven't done is a spinal culture. And I said something in my heart, and God is telling me that that's where where this problem is rooted. Like, we have to do this. And they're like, we can't, even when she first got here, she's very combative. She's a big woman, right? And it took 3 big dudes, nurses, to like hold her down just to get the IV in her arm, right? I'm like, no, but I was like, I wasn't here yet. That was like the 2 days before I got here. I said, I will sit with her. I will hold her hand. You do the, do the spinal culture. And this is the last thing on the list. I'm like, we've been through everything else. We found that it was, she had Lyme disease and she had it for years, but she was having lower back problems and she was going to the chiropractor and getting cortisone shots in her spine. And so on a microscopic level, those cortisone shots pushed the Lyme disease into her spinal fluid. And it started to infect her spinal fluid and rise up and create inflammation in her brain. And that's what we finally found out what was wrong with her. That was in 2018. She was this close to dying. She even, while I was in the hospital with her, she was telling me, she was lucid and talking to me about her and being at the pearly gates and like, and
that's a real thing.
And she's still here with us to this day. I lost everything, my business, my house. My wife got pregnant with twins during COVID. Like, we were hard up. But my grandmother is still here. And I made it back to where we are here now. But like, man, dude, that story is so aligned with everything that I went through, man. I feel that so hard.
No, I appreciate that, brother. And I think we're a lot more aligned than you know, because even right now, I mean, I'll give you 2 contacts to Nip's team right now when we're done, because that was one of the things I was working with. I was working with, just really reinvigorating that whole process. And I even told my wife, I can bring her in here right now. I was like, Sunday, I know exactly where we're going. so because again, it's because to your point, I'm from the hood. A lot of people don't realize it. I'm like, don't let this clean, like, vernacular fool you. I was trained in the military to speak this way professionally as a broadcaster. I was like, I'm very much still from the hood. I still think a lot those ways. But to your point, I took my CRO skills and saved my wife's life. That's why I understand the real value of CRO and that thought process behind it. That's what I train on, because I'm just like, look, y'all want some real world scenarios of how you can take marketing and advertising and really like change the world for real. Well, when you understand it at this level, you understand the true power that you have for what we're doing. Because a lot of these guys, bro, I mean, they're keyboard gangsters. They don't understand, and it's like, talking about the entrepreneur sucks. You got people who don't have that experience. And even with my clients,
we've had a couple silver spoon entrepreneurs on here, and I'm trying to dig it out of them. I'm like, where's the suck? Like, where's the shit you've been through?
Yeah.
Like, some people just haven't been through it, and that's okay. But
bro, real talk on everything I love. I actually documented a lot of stuff when I was out in South Central at that time. So I mean, like I said, bro, it's part of my story that I haven't had a chance to really talk about, because it's one of those things where I didn't want to talk about it at all. I mean, I still got my PTSD.
You're going to be a reoccurring guest for us. I'll tell you that right now. You're going to be a regular with us.
I appreciate it.
We're just scratching the surface, man.
Well, that's been part of my challenge too, is that I've been behind the scenes for so long. Like, I didn't even talk about the ad tech platform that we started from scratch for this industry. Like, that's something that me, Adam, Jesse, Ray, and all these guys over there at Audience Lab did. We started an ad tech platform from scratch. So identity resolution and all this other stuff, they showed me love at my toughest time. Because the minute that I was trying to get back on, this is how crazy Facebook really works. Within 5 minutes of me posting, just trying to get back online, Ray was like, bro, I think we're looking for a CEO. So I was CEO of PDocs. So what I did was, so that's just the love, man. They showed me love for 3 years, up to the point where this time last year, bro, I was helping people get off of hard drugs, like crack, cocaine, meth, all of that stuff, dude. And it just really brought me back home as to how serious what we're really doing is, and how it really does affect all levels. But we're able to jump in and out. But now, so I have the real pain that I can write and talk to, because I've been through it. But more specifically, as a CRO guy, when I'm saying something, it's going to hit differently, because I understand exactly what they're going through. So I can really relate to that. And that's conversion. Conversion is just being real AF. And just really putting it out there and speaking directly to a person for real. Not this BS, not AI, not all this other crap. It's like, look, what do you really know? And if not, who do you know who's been through it? And are you an accurate steward of their information? Straight up. Are you able to describe it in a way to where you're able to describe it in a way? That's it.
Damn, man.
That's beautifully said.
Yeah. I'm enjoying this so much, man. This is like, wow.
So
all right, man.
This is probably one of my favorite conversations so far. Yeah, Fred and I were talking beforehand. We were just like, he was on Josh Forty's podcast for 2 hours. He was joking about being on here for 4 hours, and I'm like, yeah, I can see that. We're definitely going to spend for another one.
Oh man,
I noticed though.
We're gonna go out and do the podcast live with Josh, man. We should just go out, all of us together, man. Or where do you live now, Fred?
Sure. Hey man, I'm just putting it out there. I need help. I'm working to get back visible again, bro. Like I said, me and Taylor had a group back in the day, 2020, where we had over 2,200 of the world's top thought leaders and experts, and it's the kind of stuff I trained on. So like I want to get back to that level, because I want to pick up that conversation. That's why I knew to go to Taylor when things were going well, because he was like, bro, He's like, have you even checked out what I've been doing? I'm like, dog, I've been trying to save my wife's life. Like, I love you. We're good. Like, straight up. Like, and I started getting back online. That's how I met Josh. I was just, because I was just like, I talked to Ben the week before, because me and Ben started around the same time with TF. And I was just like, guys, I'm just now like full time getting back online, but I do know that how fast the information moves. But more specifically, this is still a people game, bro. It's all about people. It's about high tech and high touch. And I think that we are really pioneers for this Web 2.0 stuff. And I'm very serious about that. You know, I work with Billy Jean behind the scenes in his group.
I almost worked for Billy Jean.
Yeah, I was one of Billy's first.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I was really one of Billy's first coaches ever. There was 187 people who at that point in time, he was looking to expand his Genius Academy.
Yep.
So I was class 2. Class 1, I said, I'm not going to miss this. So class 1, I was sitting in the stands because I like, so it's just the craziest thing.
Wait,
I'm not
you
missing
might have
class 2.
saw me live. So I went out there. I went out to his, I'm in Connecticut, right? And I flew out there. I was one of like 250 people when, that applied to be, a closer when he was expanding the Genius Academy, right?
Okay. So you applied the same time I did. You applied the exact same time I did.
Yeah, I flew out there, one of 25 people who made it out of the 400 or something that applied, right?
Yeah.
And then we did like a 5-day boot camp. And and he gave us the script the night before, and he's like, learn the script in the hotel, and you're gonna come here and you're gonna role play it live with all my 2,000 something students watching, right? And we did it live, and I made it through the final day of the boot camp. And then he hired 5 people. I was from Connecticut. Everybody he hired was from that area, San Diego area. But what happened was, because I did so well, one of my peers that actually got the job, he found me. So I was in my hotel lobby and I was ready to fly back home. And he comes into the hotel lobby, he wanders in, and I'm like, hey, what's up? What are you doing here? And I thought you went home already, because he lived local. And he's like, nah, man. He's like, something just told me to to come here. And I'm like, okay, that's weird. I'm like, what's up? And he's like, well, now that I'm here, now I know why. He's like, so there's this guy, Cole Gordon, right? And he's like,
I know Cole.
Yeah, he's like, dude, you did so well. He's like, you should have got this job. And he's like, I know what this means to you from everything you went through with your grandmother and stuff. You're trying to get your life back on track, right? He's like, so I paid to be in Cole's program to be placed as a closer. He's like, here's the link to get on their calendar without having to pay to be in their program. Hopefully nobody sees this and is like, hits me up for 10 grand. And dude, they placed me in Matt DeCino hired me as a closer, and that's how I got to where I am now. Thanks to flying out to Billy Jean's headquarters and going through his boot camp and stuff, man.
You see how all of these dots connect, though? Yep. Literally when Cole left out, Taylor had called me up. That's who I was. As soon as Cole left out, I came in. So and I was there and I was crushing it, and they were just like, dude, they weren't expecting me to perform the way that I did, which is why it was a sudden departure when I had left. And Taylor was asking, he's like, bro, you okay? What's that about? I said, bro, I promise you, everything's good with us. I just need you as a friend right now. I don't know what's going on with my wife. But all of these roads lead back to that whole prolific time from 2017 to 2020, 2021 the max. There was a magical period of time
in there too.
Yeah, bro. Shout out to Herman. I'm telling you, bro. We just getting started. I'm telling you, I want to re-plug back into that part, because that to me, I had something called I Am Reality Marketing. So what I used to do is that's what I would do. I go up to South Central. I talk. That's how I met with the Marathon crew, and we were working on some things. So. But then, let's say my wife hit another rough patch. So I'm just now literally getting back out here in the market, bro. But it goes to show you, for real, this is the suck of entrepreneurship, but this is also the team if you really work it right. Because again, teamwork does make the dream work, bro. I mean, and I'm very serious about that. People don't understand this. It may feel like a solo game. But what I want to be able to do is to create platforms just like Taylor's doing and the other people are doing, where, we all come together for real and just like, okay, what you got? That's how you doing in the hood. What you got? I mean, this is how you do it for real, man. People don't understand. I hate these fake DM guys, man. They jump on, hey, how's business? I'm like, who are you? It's just not to be rude. It's just come on, man. We were saying that back.
Dude, I got like 250, at least the last time I checked, 250 friend requests unresponded to. And Josh, he'll be like, dude, those are leads. I'm like, I don't have time for that crap right now.
Yeah, they're more like solicitors.
Yep.
I don't even want to call them leads. It's so crazy though, because entrepreneurship, whether it be your upbringing that predisposes you to getting into the game of entrepreneurship, or maybe you start and you go through a dark season, like what happened with me. I mean, I've not gone through near the degree of stuff that you guys have been through. I've been through a divorce and lost everything one time. And that was enough. And Kevin was right by my side through the whole thing. And so he saw everything that happened. So that was enough to get me like aware of like, whenever we start pursuing our dreams, or whether it's like we start pursuing our dreams after the dark season, there's that element, but also along with that, the richest relationships, the richest experiences, and the most value that you can add to people come from being in the game of entrepreneurship. So it's like it's like this dichotomy, like there's sometimes, like when you're developing a photograph, the old school way of developing photographs was to go into the dark room.
Yep.
And some people come from that, and some people go into that after they start pursuing their dreams. Napoleon Hill has a quote, with every adversity, there's a seed of equal or greater opportunity or benefit. And one of my mentors back when I was doing insurance network marketing, Greg Kapp was his name. He was like, he used to be like right up there with Ed Milet in the financial services game. He said, he added on a piece to the end of that quote by Napoleon Hill is, if and only if you look for the seed of greater benefit. And so since then, dude, I've learned so much about just mindset and entrepreneurship, and like, where attention goes, energy flows, and like you get what you expect out of things. And so I'm curious, out of everything that you've experienced so far, with where you're like, because I want to get into kind of like, I know you mentioned a little bit like where you're pivoting now, getting back on the scene in the marketplace. Is like, first, like, is your wife good now?
Thank you for asking. Yeah, she's doing a lot better. She's swinging. She's like, where's the money? I'm like, wait. She's hardcore aging. She's got her first penny since she's ever made it. So I know her health is fine now. So I'm just like, don't kill me for saying it, but it is what it is. So I'm just like, yeah, so she's fine now. She actually just got off of they had to stop and restart her heart like earlier, about a year and a half ago. So she's been fine since. Yeah, they literally had to stop it and restart it. And she just came off a few medications about a couple of weeks back. So, but yeah, thanks for asking.
Yeah, that's good to hear, man.
Yeah. Oh, man. And so now, I'm sorry, Kevin, I got one more thing.
No, you're good.
Now you have all of these relationships that you've developed over the years. And now it's coming back full circle, and you're like kind of like this phoenix rising from the ashes, and you're like, you got like fire in your eyes, and you're out of the dark room, so to speak, and now you're ready to move forward. What is, and this may be where Kevin was going, but like, what is the next 90 days to the rest of this year look like for you?
Bro, I'm gonna be super 100. I'm still like recovering. It's real hard to get out here after being in my head for so long, and that's not. I'm not usually that guy who's in my head like this, bro. But even these kinds of conversations are just reaffirming, because it's a desert out here. It's like I told my daughter last night. I'm used to running ads, talking to people, just really being me, and I know a lot of that chunk of me got absorbed in my wife's identity at that time. Like I had to really get in her DNA like a method actor to figure out all the way down to what time she's eating. Is this the right thing for her? So I'm just now pulling out of this method acting role to just really understand, because you are my friend when you walk in my shoes for real. So that's what I did with her. So I'm doing my best to recapture my identity. I'm actually shout out to Matt Fury. I want to talk to him next, but this is a book, Psycho-Cybernetic. Yeah, so me and him did an interview prior to all of this stuff as well, because I was going deep into his stuff. So I just need to I'm just doing my best, bro. It's literally crawl, walk, run, marathon because my PTSD got triggered a lot. And I'm like legally 70%, like on the books. And the government just don't give you crap if you know anything about the government. So I am just now trying to figure out my identity. So I'm going through my morning formulas again that Taylor teaches. I'm also the more I'm talking, the more it's actually therapeutic for me, quite frankly. So I'm lost, bro. Seriously, I'm like I got like this big head, like walking around, like okay, I got this knowledge. Where do I put it? You know, and then when I drop and plant my flag, I just do, you know, just kind of like dumb. That's how I feel right now, bro. And again, I'm not in my feelings usually. So when I say that's how I feel, it's highly unusual for me to even say that because I've been like this cyborg all of this time since I learned all of this stuff. I've been like this cyborg, bro, for real, straight up. And that's the craziest thing about it. So I do have two programs that I do have, you know, they're all data driven because again, I mean, I've worked with $2 billion worth of ad spend online and offline. So I have a high ticket program for that. And I also do have my other program, which is From Vision to Victory. It talks about the Phoenix Ascension, to your point, because that's my journey. I didn't have an offer back in 2020. That's how crazy it was. Even though I had these relationships, up to and including I worked with Ed Milet in his base shop when he was in finance out here in Chino. So shout out to Ed as well. It's like all these crazy names that I'm connected with, dude. You have no idea, like straight up. And I'm just like, how do I even have all these connections? But do they even remember me? Do they like me? They don't bring me up. You know, I kind of feel like the little, I'm like the side chick. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, well, what's going on? Like, can y'all like call me? Because I used to call y'all. Like, we used to have like relationships for real. You know, so. But it's okay though. I understand that people come in and out of seasons. I understand that, you know, things happen in time. You know, it's a pleasure and honor really to meet you. And Kevin, just now really hearing your story, bro. We're so aligned, it's stupid. You know, and this is what I think just through the organic reach and power of not just online, but also just being real with each other. You know, I think that's the part that sucks as entrepreneurs is that we have to always put this macho kind of S on our chest kind of deal, bro. When that horseshoe falls out your ass and you don't have any skill sets to fall back on, that's when you really need to understand that you need to have a community for real. You know?
Yeah. The only time we think when things are going well, when you look on Facebook or whatever, the only time people are being real is when it's for self-deprecation purposes. This is that space here. This is like locker room talk, like talk about the real shit. I don't care what impact it has on your brand. If you can't come here and talk about the real shit and the stuff that you've been through and how you've overcome it, then we don't want you on the podcast anyway. Right? Like,
I'm glad you said that, Kevin, straight up, because that's been my biggest challenge. Because Josh asked me, is your problem traffic generate? I'm like, bro, my problem's been death, dog. Like, let me just get past this part first. I'm pretty sure I can figure out the traffic and run ads and test. Josh is laughing. But look, bro, I'm so super 100 with it because that's what brands are these days. And to your point, Nipsey Hussle was one of the very first people to really understand the personification of a brand. Like, people don't want to be behind these big box brands. It never worked to begin with, but that's the character people dang want to keep consumerism up. You know what I'm saying? So because I'm smart enough to see all of this stuff, that's what I train on. I train on that kind of stuff that nobody trains on because I can legally talk about this kind of stuff now. Because now, as long as you're relatively legal and got a credit card and can run an ad, you can put up whatever campaigns and propaganda you want out here these days. But when people see through that stuff, you're ruined. And that's why I'm like, that's the reason why I'm coming back this way with a base and a solid foundation, because I had no familiarity. Like, think about the last 40 minutes. Nobody can relate with somebody who scaled up several businesses to multi-billion dollars. Nobody can relate to that. And I did that, you know? It's just craziness that I've done, but I didn't have that human element. So that's the duality between my wife getting sick and me going through this process. And I hated going through this process, for the record. I feel as though I've lost a lot of time as a result of going through this process. But had I not gone through this process, we wouldn't have a real conversation that matches your brain. And I'm telling you, this is the future, period, end of story. Like, there's nothing to talk about. People talk about conversions being off. Well, it's because you're not being real. Period. You know, I've worked in the data. I've worked in the data lane for years. I've talked to a lot of agency owners for real, and they all struggle with that one thing, which is called purpose. When you understand true purpose, then the data will become aligned. Then your conversion rates will go down, or they'll go up. Your ad spend will go down. Like, these are basic fundamental things. And remember, I told you I was in my head. Well, guess what? You can run an ad to that now. Hey, does this sound like you? Blah, blah, blah. But they don't have that reality of it. You can click the link below to learn more. You might get me in your program. But that's the reason why your delivery sucks and you get a chargeback is because you were trying to manipulate me into a product versus being a true expert. And I think that's where this whole market is going. Bro, I play a lot of poker. I'm seeing a lot of dead money online. So when I woke up, I'm just like, oh, dead money, cool. Like, because y'all don't know what y'all talking about. You were shovel sellers selling to other shovel sellers, selling to the other shovel sellers. But nobody was telling people how to get the goal. You know what I'm saying? I know how to get the goal. I know how to sell the shovel. I know how to trade on the shovel. I played at the highest level in the automotive industry. So literally, I helped rewrite the curriculum for Kia. Like, period, end of story. I'm that guy for the brand designs and changes, me. So I know what to look for. But the question is, do you know how to play? And I think that's where this podcast really comes in to bridge that gap, because there's a lot of false prophets out there, guys, and you know that.
Mm-hmm. There for sure are. It sounds like it is almost like you said it verbatim. It brought the humanity back. Like what you've gone through with your wife brought this human element back out of you after becoming like, maybe with the military, being in like, entrepreneurship, working at that level, but made you like a cyborg. I can relate to that. I used to be so just one lane, not human at all. Kevin and I had so many conversations. He was like just helping me reframe, like, bro, just talk to people. Mm-hmm. Just be a human with them. And but do you think that, come back to purpose, like, do you think that the purpose for this season and your caregiving to your wife was an intentional thing by God, universe, whatever you may believe in, to kind of bring balance back to how you approach things?
100%, bro. Actually, 1,000,000%, and I'll tell you why. Right now, I'm attracting people who are already in the industry and their offers are broken. And what they're failing to realize is that, like, they were modeling somebody else's behavior without being authentic with their own. That's only going to get you so far as like as a leading indicator, right? We talk about leading indicators and lagging indicators, right? So a leading indicator would be, okay, what are my daily activities that I'm doing right now to get those lagging activities? Mm-hmm. But when you know for a fact that something's broken, why would you continue to keep doing it? Like, we have enough data right now for you to continue to test, right? So some of these guys will still hold on to a limiting belief, expecting the market to turn. This ain't going to turn. It's not going to turn. Because 2020 was the first time where people actually sat down as a planet. Think about the magnitude of what I'm saying. We sat down as a planet for like 2 years. Man, this job sucks. Who are you? Like, we're married. Like, I don't like you. Like, what are we doing? Like, it was all of these different types of conversations, right? Everybody started discovering their humanity again. Like, we all stopped. Like, period. For me, it was a vacation the first year, even though my wife was sick. I was like, okay, great. I can finally breathe. I'm not traveling anymore. So I had a chance to like really like unpack and just relax. But what I'm seeing though is that I have always played at a very ethereal level, because my zone of genius is to be able to take thoughts and actually crystallize them into products and offers and services. Like, I know how to engineer that from A to Z. What's happening?
You talking about Kevin right now,
dude? Man. You are very quickly becoming one of my favorite people on planet Earth, bro. You better chill. I tell Josh all the time.
I got my book. Look, Josh was there when I was writing my book. I'll give you my book, bro. I'm telling you. Look, I just had a clinical therapist look at my book, and she hit me up from London. She's like, Fred, I don't finish a lot of stuff. I finished your book, and I'm about to read it again, like straight up, because that's what I write. Because you understand, and you're my people, bro. Dude, there's this, and I just go ahead. I'm listening. Go ahead.
We have this investor, and he's a government bureaucrat. Very like, you know those people, right? There's no emotion involved. Yep. Money is tactical. It's not, right? And so we butt heads so much. And he asked me and Joshua, right? He's asking, what's my purpose in this business? Like, from a money perspective, why do I even need to be a part of this business? And like, what value do I bring to my relationship with Joshua, right? He thought that Joshua was the entire business, and I brought nothing to the table because he never met me before, right? And I'm like, dude, mine and Joshua's relationship, I was like, everything that we have, the reason that you can't see it, you can't touch it, taste it, smell it, is because it's not part of this realm. I'm like, it's not part of these 5-dimensional senses that you live in. I'm like, what we have is ethereal. It has nothing to do with anything you've ever ever even witnessed before. And
That's
he's
fact.
like, okay, I accept that, but he didn't know what I was talking about. He went and looked it up.
Hashtag NASA. Hashtag NASA. You can't see me, bro.
For real. Bro.
That's why you don't see me with Joshua, because you can't see me.
Yeah. Dude. So,
but that's true though.
One of my spiritual mentors prior to my grandmother going into the hospital, he in his teens, he was a NASA aerospace engineer, and he taught me a lot about the, and now I'm like, I don't know what he taught me, but right, but like quantum physics and how it applies to everything, like thoughts and emotions, and how gravity, your thoughts and your feelings create a density or a buoyancy in your aura, and like so many things that allow you to either be your own demise and like stay living in poverty, or continue to move at a higher and lighter and more higher vibration and make your way into these rooms, right?
Yeah. Well, see, what you're saying is really interesting, because it's what I talk about in the book. Literally, it's called like the data of comparable magnitude. And here's the problem: when you really and I'm going to give up some game if this is cool. Like if you look at Robert, if you look at Robert Kiyosaki, he actually cracked the code. So anybody can go to Robert, and I love to give resources, because I'm like, don't believe a word I say, and I'm very serious about that. It's just like Robert Kiyosaki talks about Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the quadrant, ESBI, right? So you got employees, self-employed, business owners, and investors. The problem with that, though, nobody really sees this, is that investors, when you really look at them like true investors, they're very ethereal, they're very spiritual, they're on this high level. You've got the employees from Maslow's hierarchy of needs focusing on survival stuff. Their language is different. Somewhere in between, you've got solopreneurs who are stuck because they don't realize that they need to be like Wu-Tang Clan for real. They all need to come together and just figure it out, create companies and corporations. And then you got business owners right here who are stuck because they might have been an employee, so they got different languaging, right? This is where I come in. This is all I've done for 25 years, like on record. I have been able to go into all of these rooms and connect the dots to bring them off-centered focus, and that's what we're seeing right now. Because my other zone of genius and my other weakness is the fact that I played very high level. I played very survival level, but those 20 years that I was going, there was no dots for me to connect in between. I had no reality on this. So 1996, I'm in a military capacity doing marketing and advertising, like straight up. Think about how crazy that is. And then this industry gets born around 1998, 1999. Google comes around 1995, 1996, right? So I have this whole band of information right here that I've missed, but now, because since 2020 it's all converged. You can look at all the stories. You can look at like how was it Clubhouse? That was another big thing at that point in time, where you had people from the ethereal talking to regular folk, via audio. It was almost like the aliens landed, for real. And I'm very serious when I say that, because when you look at because I was in the ad tech space for a long time. I said, they'd be like, well, what's ad tech? I was like, it's just aliens with keywords. Don't even worry about it. You don't need. We need to get your offer right before we talk about aliens with keywords. But when you understand like all these different levels, new devils for real, and I've been able to effectively play in all these different rooms, and I'm just now coming into the middle of all of this stuff for real in life. So I have a huge perspective end to end for CRO. That's what makes me truly unique in this space. That's why I can see things and people think I'm nuts. My God, I did this in the automotive industry. I would work in the manufacturer side with the engineers designing the cars. Think about this. With the engineers designing the cars, and then I go to the dealership with the guy who's washing those cars with a rag using the cleaners. And I was closing deals, and I was working with the business owners and everybody in between. Like, I'm literally end to end. I've just taken this whole mindset and just put it into the online marketing space. It's no different to me. That's what makes this conversation very unique, because I don't know too many people who've ever done it like that.
No.
And I'm from the hood. So it's like somebody's going to benefit from this one way or the other. So it's just a matter of me just being still and staying like a human being for real. So when Jim Rohn talks about be, do, have, that's why I focus from the top down, not the bottom up, because we're all from the bottom, so to speak. But like Bruce Lee said, be like water. What does water do? Water is malleable. Water is permeable. Like really being able to be in a real flow, so that you can just relax and enjoy this entrepreneurial journey. There's a real journey here, and if you don't want to take it, then you don't need to be in it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I think you two were separated at birth. That's crazy.
Yeah, man. It is pretty crazy.
Sure.
Yeah. I'm very impressed at my my West Coast black to my white East Coast doppelganger. This is insane.
Hey, what's crazy too is that Fred was even talking about moving to Nashville as well. So both of you guys are both planning to move here.
Oh my god. So I'm moving down there regardless, but man, I mean, I have a feeling that there's so much opportunity for us to work together and help each other on our journey, man. I feel like this is the first of many great conversations on and off podcast. Dude, I can't say enough about how much I appreciate you coming on, and the fact that, dude, an hour before the event that you and Joshua met, he didn't even have plans to go. He texted me and he's like, hey, Taylor put up a post, because Josh used to work for Taylor. I don't remember the last time maybe they communicated, but he's like, hey, couple extra spots if somebody local wants to pop in. And he shot him a text, and he comes to me. He's like, hey, we got what do we have, like a sales call or something? I'm like, I'll take the call.
It was Josh's coach's call.
Oh yeah, I was like, dude, don't. I was like, go. I'm like, just go, man. I'm like, you need this more than you know. Like, until I'm down there.
Let's send some love for real to Josh Forty. He's so incredible, and he's so humble, man. He's a beast, dog. I fucking love Josh.
Dude, I love Josh too, man.
Bro's built different. I mean, bro, it's built different. The hierarchy of connections here: Taylor Welch, Billie Jean, Robert. Bro, we interviewed. Our second podcast was it was our first podcast. Was Robert Kiyosaki's sales manager that we interviewed. And you see the hierarchy of connections that led us to be here today. It's crazy.
Amazing.
But so
this is what you mean by playing in the rooms, right?
Yeah, 100%. Because again, what we have to understand is that not all rooms are created equally. And some of them are designed and engineered for you to just continually to feed and be a consumer. Taylor's never been built that way either. And that's what I was telling him. I'm like, bro, I'm just now really starting to get into a lot of the stuff that you were teaching all of this time, because Taylor's very prolific. And actually on my podcast, I just interviewed his dad last week. So you can check that out. And his dad game, bro, is that I'm just like, bro, it's in the bedroom, so I don't have it. But his book's called The Legacy Navigator. So we had a chance to reconnect, and this book is way on point, and it gives me more purpose, because that's the kind of stuff I wish I'd have learned when I was in the hood. It gives me purpose to talk to my kids. It gives me purpose to understand. Like even Toyota used to talk about it with his company. Like he's like, well, in 150 years from now, the reporter's like, wait, what do you mean 150 years from now? He's like, well, I might not be around, but this is going to be around. And we don't tend to think like that. And I'm like, why? Why don't we think like that? But more specifically, his dad has the codes. Get the book. It's crazy.
Yeah, man. There's a lot of stuff if we don't already have it all. As far as like what we want to plug at the bottom of in the comments of in the caption of the podcast and stuff. The book, your podcast. Whatever we can do to help get your stuff out there too, man. Dude,
I appreciate you.
You touched. There was a couple things. I guess before we wrap up, and I don't care how long we run over, unless anybody has a hard stop. You threw in something about John Maxwell in there at a point, and you were like, "It's not about dropping names," but I want to touch back on that because it sounded like it was a pretty interesting story, the way that you snapped it in there.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So I knew that something was going amiss with me in the automotive world, because I had hit like all of these different levels. I hit all these different rooms, and then like I started seeing some other stuff that I don't want to really talk about. It's kind of bad, but it was just like, I need to pivot. So around 2008, I actually started hearing about this term called coaching. I had no idea even what coaching was. So I had invested in my first franchise, spent around 40 racks for that. Didn't work because, again, I wasn't there to work it. And I didn't understand the concept of coaching at that time. Because literally up to this point in time, like literally up until like around just recently, I've had to invent my own tools. So that's what I train on. But when that failed, I had actually gotten into John C. Maxwell's room, and admittedly, I didn't even know who John C. Maxwell was either, per se. I met John back in 2000, and I want to say it was around 2007, 2008. Actually, at my last room. So me and John had talked. True story. So we met. Ed knew John. We went to the Anaheim Convention Center for about 8 hours just talking, and then after that, I saw him again back in 2014, and that's when I got the JMT DNA. I'm one of his founding partners. I'm like the second people to go through that. So went through the certification process, and I didn't like the way that the contract was written. I know John didn't write it, but it was just too punitive for marketing and sales. I'm just like, this is like, I don't like to be impinged like that. Like, I need to flow. So that's how I got into the online ticket space. So I wound up getting with Russ Ruffino at first for Clients on Demand, went through his Millionaire Alliance program and all the other stuff. And I didn't understand the whole concept of coaching. Like, you got to show up, you got to do this. I'm like, I'm here. Like, you show up. Like, I don't get it. Like, I have questions. You know, like, it's totally glib. Don't know anything about it. But John, his process and his methodology is literally the secret to me scaling up all of these companies from zero to a few hundred million. The 21-year.
Did we just lose audio? I can't.
Oh, did it go out too? It shows your mic's muted. There you go.
Hear me? Hello?
Hello? There we go. It's back.
You're back. Okay.
Back. Can you hear me now?
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me back? Okay, cool.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, so I wasn't aware of like this whole concept of coaching. I told you, I never had a mentor short of James Ellison. You know, the Marine Corps, they just tried to punk me. I got tons of stories for the Marine Corps. And they even told me, and I quote, if you fail, it's your fault, not ours. Like, my drill instructors literally teamed up on me at the last day. Like, if you fail, it is your fault, not ours. That's how hardcore I was before Marine, straight up. So, and it wasn't necessarily me trying to be a hard ass. It was just me being through so much trauma in my life. And I'm just like, look, I need people who I can really know, like, and trust for real. Like, you know, I only got one life and I want to live my best life. So John was one of the very few people who actually gave me that perspective. And I wound up really absorbing his stuff a lot. I have practically all of his books up until that point in time that I've read and I've actually done stuff with. So I was one of his founding partners with JMT DNA. And then from there, I just went to this online marketing direction and haven't stopped since. But I'm now circling back around to that technology because I still have access to it. So I'm now going to be reincorporating a lot of those principles into what I'm doing because again, the way John moves is in alignment and congruent with how I think. Because again, I'm here to not only just have a legacy but also a dynasty. People don't talk about the dynasty. The dynasty is how you're living right now. You know, the legacy is after you're going off this planet, and I believe that we can really have both. So that's my unique viewpoint, and that's the reason why I love this. And it's not me just saying this either. It is the data, because the Federal Reserve came out about a month and a half ago to say that people 40 and under, the average median income is $259,000, 40 and under. Generation X is taking it in the shorts, so we're below like 4 to 7%, I think. And then the baby boomers and everybody else. And Josh actually talked about this too. He's like, yeah, there was an infusion of cash back in 2019. But the other part of that data is that, people 40 and under glommed all of that stuff because they have the technology, they got the marketing skills, the advertising skills. So holistically, that's what I want to focus in on with JMT DNA and John Maxwell stuff, is to really have those points of infusion, looking at it from not just an interfaith, but even if you're agnostic, let's just take these principles and apply them. But if you don't believe that in such thing as God or source or the light or whatever, you might not be my people, because I understand what it's like to live in that darkness. You know, it's really a dark place to be. And that's not to say that these people are unsalvageable. They're just not in season. And I understand that. So I want to look for people right now who are looking for me, and I want to be able to create those paths so that we all come together for real, and we can really have our own zones of genius being scaled out. Not everybody wants to be in sales, not everybody wants to be in marketing, not everybody wants to be in advertising, but I know everybody doesn't want to be gouged, so somewhere in between there's going to be fair exchange, fair commerce, and I think that's what we're on the precipice of, and I'm very serious about that, because now you're starting to see all these intellects coming together.
Absolutely. Yeah, you said fair exchange. Like, not everything is going to be dollars for services or dollars for products. Like, just to get in another room, we did an exchange of service for a voice and a chat AI build out for a client of ours in exchange for some tickets to an event with Tony Robbins, right? So I don't want to name drop there either, but like, it's the very same thing, you know. It's like exactly what you just said, the value of ideas, the value of opportunities, the value of relationships is going to be exchanged for other things and other services at this point.
Yeah, that's what's broken. That's what people don't understand. The Industrial Revolution is legitimately broken. Like, people don't understand. Like, somebody was really smart to go, I can make a human being like a robot. Cool, let's do this Industrial Revolution thing. But now we have AI, and me being a prompt engineer, I'm in some insane rooms, guys. Like, these rooms don't even exist yet. It's just straight ether. You're talking about the ether bunny? Like, it's out there. So, but this is beyond machine learning stuff, where you have the architects before they even talk about machine learning, because that's the rooms I want to be in. I want to be in the preset rooms where, like I was before in the automotive industry, like before we launch this stuff, how is this benefiting the world kind of stuff? That's what I want to be able to build out. That makes sense to me, because that's being a real pragmatic futurist. I've been very much a futurist all my life to get to this point. That's why my program's from Vision to Victory. But I can't do it by myself.
Bro, yes. 1,000 times yes.
Dude. All right.
That's exactly where we're at.
So when's part 2?
We'll definitely coordinate on that.
So
hopefully in person.
Yeah, man.
That's
the next, right? Like 60 days or less, I'm going to be down there. I'm moving down. My wife and 3 kids. I'm dragging everybody out before school starts. I got twin girls that are starting kindergarten, and I got a 15-year-old boy that's starting high school. So before school starts, I'll be down there. Joshua and I will start working on our podcast studio, and then we'll do episode 2 with Fred, man.
This
has been awesome, dude. So what's on the horizon, right? Like anything you want to plug, man, anything that you want people to know about you, or or what's to come, or what to look out for, man.
No, I appreciate it. I definitely want to really thank you guys for creating this space. And Joshua, thank you for just calling me your favorite person in the room at that point in time. That means a lot to me. It does, man, because there's a lot of genius that's out here, and I believe that we all can unleash and unpack this zone of genius for everybody. So definitely thank you for having this podcast. I know that this is probably the most prolific podcast out there. And I think that there's going to be a lot that's going to come out of everything that you guys are doing, for real, straight up. And for me personally, I'm just now getting started again. It's always hard to be in like the 50-yard line of your life to just start again. But I always give this example to my clients as well. It's just like an eagle, in order for it to live its full life, it hits a point in its midlife where it has to pull out all of its feathers first and actually break its beak. And if it doesn't, it's going to die. So during that time, it's at its most vulnerable phase. But when it comes back full circle, it thrives and it grows again. I think that's where I'm at in my life. So that's the reasons why the journey from vision to victory is designed and engineered the way that it is. It's not necessarily just for people my age, because a lot of us go through this kind of process. But if we're aware that there's somebody who can actually facilitate that process in that group, that's why I'm here. I want to be able to just end to end build your philosophy around your messaging and your brand, so that you're able to really flourish and prosper. So then you get a guy like Craig Myers, he's already done 50 million in ad spend. He can really, he loves to buy. He's a great media buyer. He wants to lean into your stuff. But the way that, because I've done media buying too, so I know the importance of setting up the business right from the very beginning, so that when you go to just lean into it, and you've done e-com, so you understand that, Kevin, as well. Like, you got to have the foundation set just right. But you 2.0 is literally having your philosophy behind the message and also the brand, so that people can feel it and it hits differently, just like Nipsey Hussle's brand. So that's what I've engineered. It's built out. It's built out on a high ticket offer, mid ticket offer, low ticket offer. Like, my book is just $3. People get the best 35 pages on the planet there, and if they want to invest, it's just $3. Then I have a 5-day course that I actually designed with Taylor back in the day, back in 2020, when there was a lot of prolific people in that group, and it literally hasn't changed. It's like, what is $100,000 foot, $160,000 mastermind? What should that look like? I actually have that as well as an offer for the book, so people can go to that link. Yes, they can go to that link. They can check it out. If they like it, cool. If not, no worries, no harm, no foul. But I just want to walk this earth with just good people, and we all just really change this planet for real. It doesn't take a lot of us. It just takes enough of us, and that's it.
Yeah, dude, I love it, man.
Just a remnant, right?
That's it, man. Just a chip in the chair, just a microphone and some game.
Hey, I like it.
That's the entrepreneur, toothpick and compass mindset, man. But I'm just now starting to get around other humans. So anybody's welcome to come to the group. I just reopened up my group as well. It's not exactly a dead group. It's not exactly a lot of people, all that stuff. But I'm just more focused in on just getting the quality, high caliber quality people in the group like we had before. That's my main focus.
Love it. We'll be hopping in
Yeah,
there.
working with people you can.
Yeah.
Sorry, Kev.
No, we'll hop in there, and anybody that wants to join us, feel free.
Yeah, man. I really appreciate that because I look at it as being like mission control. So like even when I was working with Audience Lab, I just dropped the link down. Like even when I was working with Audience Lab, that's what we had. We had like a mission control because when you have a lot of different things going on as an entrepreneur, you got to get the sequencing right. If you don't get that sequencing right, it's going to suck. But more specifically, you got to have sequencing with people who you trust and who are vetted. So I like to deal with vetted people in the room, just like we saw with Taylor. I can go boom, 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 and it's just very prolific, and that's how my mind really works. Like I can just see it just because I've done it for so long, and then I'm just like, okay, well, here's a sequence. Do you like this? And I actually have special software for that. Like, hey, do you like this? Okay, boom, let's go to this. Boom, let's go to this. Boom, like it's literally paint by numbers with me because I understand how important it is to get it right the first time. And again, it won't be perfect, and you can't make a guarantee, but just like a casino, you can stack the odds in your favor if that makes sense. So I do my best to stack those odds. So even if we miss, you got a guy like Kevin. It don't take much for him to tweak it, but it has to be a certain way before he takes over and just crushes it. So that's how I think. That's how I think. That's okay.
That's okay. Love it, man. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I really like the angle that you have. It's kind of like a holistic business philosophy, getting your people say your truth.
Yeah.
But really what's going to resonate about you and your story and your journey with the market. And like Taylor I remember when I was in traffic funnels, he like had this one-off training. He was just like, you guys got to somehow strike the nerve of your audience. Like your fingers are on their pulse and when their heart's beating, and then you say things along the beat of their heart that hit their nerves, and being able to form your brand around that. So it's not just about having maybe one piece of content pop off and having to rely on that. This is like your brand persona.
Yep.
The embodiment of you and your brand. Yeah. And everything that you've been through, making that resonate with your audience. And I think that if like with what you're doing, working with the people that that you can get results for, dude, I think by the next time that we have this podcast, a whole lot more is going to happen for you with everything. And I'm very excited to see where this goes for you.
I appreciate that. And just to add to that, just the opportunity volume as well. We have to have enough opportunity volume to sustain that thought. And that's the reason why I have like a brand operations guideline just for that reason. It's around 70 pages that I produce for people because it needs to be so clear to the point where everybody around you is the words that I legally had to learn, because we didn't talk about even my compliance stuff that I had to do in the automotive industry. But the two words are clear and conspicuous. Like you got to have clear and conspicuous copy, clear and conspicuous messaging, clear and conspicuous branding. It needs to be like, this is what it is. Period. So
that sounds like everybody could benefit from that. Reducing the number of chargebacks that you get.
That's how I start, bro. Literally, I reverse engineer the chargebacks first. You have to talk about why people. You got to get to the note really fast. Why are they saying no? And reverse. That's exactly what I do, bro. 100%.
Love that.
Spot on.
We got a lot to talk about on episode number 2.
Yeah, man. Yeah. All right, so to be continued, man. That's, dude. It's very rare that I'm at a loss for words, so that just means I'm full of excitement and gratitude, man. So thank you so much for being here, man. Fred, looking forward to connecting on a personal level, the three of us, and finding some synergy so that we can work together. We'll find a way along our journeys, man, because I think there's so much potential here for us, the three of us, to to continue to thrive together. So I love it, man. Thank you so much for being here, man.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Appreciate your trust. Thank you so much.
For sure.
Hang back for a second. I'll go ahead and stop the recording.